gathered here this week to develop our skills as we prepare to step into a profession which, among other things, will grant each of us the freedom to share the truths we hear calling to us from the bottom of our souls. I still can't believe I get to do this. And if I ever lose this sincere appreciation that I feel right now, whether it comes in a month or when it comes in 30 years, I know that's time for me to hang up my robe. So here today, in a world filled with change and fear and uncertainty and injustice, my monthly Soul Matters packet invites me to talk to you about the word presence. This is especially timely because a wise professor just recently told me that this is an important part of preaching. So I am blessed with knowing that I have a very captive audience for me. So I started out by looking up the definition of this word presence, and it made me laugh. Presence. The act of being present. That was it. Webster's, Oxford's, Dictionary.com, presence. The act of being present. They all committed the biggest abuse in the world of wordsmithery. They were forced to use a word to define itself because they had no other words that had any relevance in attempting to define the concept. Presence is the act of being present. It's too difficult a thing for the people that write dictionaries to define, and yet it's a topic I'm supposed to wax poetic to you about for the next 15 minutes. It should be fun. So of course, as a good UU, I had to follow the word trail to see where it led. Presence is the state of being present. Let's see what it means to be present. Present. Existing or occurring now. It's not even a noun, it's an attributive adjective. This is like trying to write a circle in the color beige. Presence, it's literally nothing. Which makes the next thing I'm about to say sound a little strange. One of the most valuable pieces of wisdom I have been offered thus far on my journey came from the chief of chaplaincy division at the VA hospital this summer. He said, the most valuable thing you have to offer is your presence. Pure, simple, non-anxious presence. This is the advice he gives when a new student returns from the wards looking especially dejected after a day of trying to offer hope or cheer to folks in situations where hope was nothing more than a nice sentiment. And one that felt especially trite coming from a rookie that felt about as qualified to be doing this work as an actor playing a minister on TV. Then his explanation comes. He explains that the doctors have a job, and the nurses have a job, the social workers have a job, the community activists, advocates have a job, even the families have a job. But no one is there to just hold space for the patient, to simply bear witness to their existence. And as soon as I heard that, I was transformed. I don't have to do, I just have to be. Can it really be that simple? What do you think? Is it really just easy just to be present with another person? Is that really enough? Assuming this thought is true, I think I've begun to do this presence thing at least okay, because I've been focused on it. It's always my intention. It's just that I'm sometimes distracted. I'm sure there are plenty of folks in this room that are actually far better at it than me. But I'm willing to bet that all of us, if we're being honest, can think of those spaces where it's not always easy being fully present around those of us we care about. So what gets in the way? I think it's mostly ego. Or the voices of our family, Or maybe it's just the business of life pawing at us for attention. It's 100 different things. But most of all, I think it's ego. Being distracted, playing mental chess during our interactions in an attempt to guide the conversation where we want it to go. Or being guarded, afraid of being hurt again, so hiding behind our protections. Or holding on to something we just can't seem to find the right way to say, so it festers beneath the surface. We're trying to make sure this other person isn't trying to get the best of us. Or trying to prove our worth. Being distracted by our stories is so ingrained in our human way of being that it's really hard to even notice when we're doing it. It's pervasive. I think most of us are doing it, perhaps not always, but at least a good deal of the time. Perhaps that's why it's a goal of ministry. Presence is so rare, it's actually a gift. The end of my dad's life provided perhaps one of the best lessons for me in the difference between interacting with someone and being truly present. As I share this story, see if you can think of an example in your life where a similar dynamic occurred. I got the call that no child ever wants to hear. It's the last days of your parents' life. It's time for you to come home. So I boarded a plane, heavy with thoughts, distracted, confused, all over the place, not knowing what I was supposed to do, what was expected of me, how I was going to show up when I got there. And I landed and I went straight to the hospital where he was, and he was unresponsive, and he was laying there, and I sat down thinking I should say something, not knowing what to do, feeling uncomfortable. His eyes would flicker in and out. I could tell he knew I was there, but we weren't talking. And he started to perk up a little bit at the end of the day, but it was still just, I didn't know what to do, but I was there. And then the nurse came in, the night nurse, and she was going to feed him. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you want to feed your dad?" I was like, no, I don't want to feed my dad. That's weird. Feed my dad. And she did that, and I stayed for a little while longer, and then I went home, or I went to the hotel, and just all kind of thoughts going through my head. I went back the next morning, and he was a little more present. He was a little more awake. And as the day went on, as we interacted back and forth, what was supposed to happen just sort of emerged. So I felt myself calming, and I felt this talking at a depth that I'd never felt before. And then the night nurse came back, different person. Said, "Would you like to feed your dad?" Without a hesitation. Absolutely. It would be an honor to feed my dad. And I fed my dad. And in that moment, I will never forget this, I realized that all of my ego was out of the way, and I was just with my dad. Why did we wait till the end? When we're in the depths of our struggles, presence, having someone completely witnessing and validating our experience is what we crave most. So how do we learn to become more present with others more often? I think one of the paths is by practicing learning to be more present with ourselves. Remaining fully awake to the beauty and mystery of life expands your sense of what is possible. Being open to life is to experience the abundance that is inherent in being connected to the interdependent web of life. I think it's more than just mindfulness. Mindfulness is walking over to the slider to let the dog out back on a cold winter's night. You take one last look at your phone and you set your alarm and you think about the meeting you have first thing in the morning. But then you finally look up from your phone and you realize it's snowing. And you put the phone down, shut off the lights, you look out at the snow, and you notice that the moon is peeking through a hole in the clouds. And the world outside your window currently appears as a luminescent snow globe. And you take a deep breath, quiet your mind, and you breathe in, you breathe out, and you remember to give thanks for this gift that is your life. That's mindfulness. presence might start out the same way, but it goes even further. Presence is noticing that scene in front of you and opening the slider back up and stepping right out into the fresh snow with your bare feet and drinking in the glow of the moment and tilting your head back and sticking out your tongue and letting the snowflakes land on your mouth and realizing that this water, which is now becoming a part of you, was moments ago suspended in a cloud thousands of feet above your head, and not long before that might have well been in the bottom of the ocean being pushed up by the fires from the center of the earth. And in that moment, you realize that you are connected to it all. And that whatever you were worried about around that meeting that you were just thinking about is minuscule compared to the universe that you are fully connected to and currently dancing straight upon with cold, tingling feet. And the more time we can stay in that space, the more space I believe emerges within our souls to hold others. You become present. You know, most of the time when I come here, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. This community is filled with such loving people and so much wisdom and so much life experience. As I prepared to re-enter this community of my peers, I found myself drawn back to our student covenant and realized that much of it is designed to encourage the type of presence in human relations that I've attempted to describe here today. From the opening paragraph of that covenant, we call forth each other's full and authentic presence in the spirit of love and openness to the many gifts we bring. We covenant to be each other's support and to share each other's joy. And then from the list of our shared aspirations, we will listen deeply to all points of view. And we will offer everyone an opportunity and an invitation to be heard. Gorgeous sentiments like these cannot emerge from a community of closed-minded, disconnected individuals. Our covenant, and I'd be willing to bet many of the covenants in our home communities, contain some amazing reminders of the transformational power of simple presence. This faith is literally a birthing ground for expanding this beautiful concept into the wider world. And that ultimately is what I think a faith like ours is all about. We all know that being present in the moment is a good idea. But just like the best athletes and the best musicians know, it takes discipline and practice to hone your craft. I don't know about you, but I think we come here to be reminded. We come here to be encouraged. We come here to practice, and we come here to share. We come here to learn, to be present. As we prepare to enter this week of learning together, to step back from the hustle and bustle of our lives to hone the public presence of our chosen profession, let us all commit to give ourselves and everyone in this room the ultimate gift. Let us all strive to do nothing more in the coming week than to be fully present in this glorious life and this beautiful community of gathered souls into which we have so miraculously emerged.